in a book that was just published. I really center my thoughts in the book, Cosmically Curious Perceptions from a Speck Called Earth, on epistemic curiosity. And I am really happy the way you have in your liturgy in this congregation an openness to new and wonderful things in the presence of God. This congregation indeed has the mark of Christ. As you explore and are curious about ways in which you might serve Him in days to come. Even as you drive by this church, you have a mark of your people, a food pantry. That is a mark of Christ. Love for neighbor. For 25 years, I was an ecumenical representative representing 4 different bishops around the United States in both the Indiana Kentucky Synod as well as the Rocky Mountain Synod. And during those years, I continued to be very curious. And I continue to be curious today as you are curious in this congregation. Epistemic curiosity. During some of our discussions, we even took a look at the ways in which we worship as Lutherans. You are familiar with these words. Christ has died. Christ is risen. Christ will come again. Well, in our conversations around the United States, year after year, we discuss things such as this, and it was seen as a possible change in the liturgy of the church. Instead of those words, a proposal was this: Christ has died, Christ is risen, Christ is with us now. And I really love that, because that is a reality. The risen Christ is with us now. He is always with us to inspire us with His presence. When we take a look then at curiosity, we are given opportunity not only this day, but in the week to come, to do things that are different as people of faith. Because love has wide parameters. There are so many ways in order to reflect the love of Christ. For Christ has died, Christ is risen, and Christ is with us right now. St. Jerome said, when the Apostle John was a very old man, he simplified his message with these words, the writer of our gospel text. In old age, the Apostle John said, my little children, love one another. That is the gospel of the Lord. Now, St. Jerome may or may not have actually written this, but a truth conveyed by the Apostle John is that Christians are people who love in new ways every single day, because the Christ first loved us, and Christ is with us right now. St. John wrote in his first epistle, we love because God first loved us. And Jesus, in his farewell address to his disciples, told them about a new commandment: love one another, just as I have loved you in our lives together. you also should love all the people in the creation. So as people of faith, we are well aware of what God has done for us. Our response in prayer, praise, and thanksgiving, and you do this marvelously well in this congregation, is the reason why we are here this morning. And as we leave this place with the mission to love other people, we are inspired to do that without exception. Martin Luther said this to the congregation he was serving. Martin Luther said, "As there is no fire without heat and smoke, so there is no faith without love. For when through faith we know how dearly God loves us, we come to gain a sweet and loving heart towards God. And this heart cannot stay by itself alone. It must flow forth and freely show its gratitude and love. But as God does not need our work and has not commanded us to do anything for Him, but to praise and thank Him, the Christian makes haste to give wholehearted towards the neighbor, serving and helping the neighbor." As an ecumenist and as an interreligious leader for many, many years, when I studied in Hong Kong and Helsinki, Finland, and Germany, as well as in Japan and South Africa, our neighbors, I came to realize in a dynamic way, are living on a small planet called Earth. And even though we all are different, in the presence of God, we are all the same. When we are filled with Christ, we love everybody without exception. Be they in Finland, South Africa, Japan, Hong Kong, or Germany. That is what it is on this day, to be in the presence of the Christ. In his book, Miracle on the River Kwai, Ernest Gordon describes a very moving incident in which British prisoners of war tend the wounds of injured Japanese soldiers, and they come to feed them. The Japanese soldiers are encrusted with mud and blood. Their wounds are inflamed. The British prisoners see them, and they take pity on them, and they bathe their wounds and give them a little food to eat. They care for their enemies, who have starved and beaten them and killed their comrades. Today we continue to be empowered to act in similar circumstances in a divided world. For God broke down the hatred and conquered it with love, because love works. This is because it is truly the power of God. St. John writes, "Beloved, let us love one another, because love is from God." And this continues to work in our schools, workplaces, homes, and families. So love becomes a mark to the world that we are God's people, that we do believe what we say we believe. Jesus gives this new commandment to love because he is going from this world to his heavenly kingdom. He tells his disciples You cannot come with me. So love in this place until we are together again. In other words, the commandment to love is for us in the meantime. This world is not heaven, but by loving God and our neighbors, we can build a little kingdom even while we wait for God's coming rule. We can break down barriers between people, between races and genders, ages and abilities. We can show in our lives that we believe what we say we do, even in Middlebury. There are so many divisions in life, for we are human beings. But in the Christ, we are a new creation, God's own people. The marks of love were plain on Jesus. He showed his disciples the wounded hands and feet and side. And our love for God and our neighbors may leave their marks on us too. When we give to the mission work of our church, bring food for the food pantry, tell others about the Christ. These are marks and signs of our faith. When we put the best construction on what our neighbors say and do, when we give a person a second chance or a third, we are showing the mark of Christian love. For love is from God and of God. Love is not simply an emotion or a sentiment. For biblical love is not all hearts and flowers, but actions and deeds. It is loving because Christ first loved us. When we think about that, St. John, in his later years, really got it right. Amen.